What is up, everybody? It's I, Flamingo Writer here once again for another Girls video. Now, when I say that I'm going to be doing about two more, though, I think it's about time I say that this is definitely the case where a lot of people think that I'm going to be talking about Pretty Cure. But before into that, though, there's something I need to discuss. While I do want to do more magical girl shows, that doesn't mean I want to stop talking about them entirely. I am doing them more sporadic, but I'm going to be doing polls for you guys if you want me to do either another magical girl show or some much more than just that on my channel. Mostly because I want to just talk about other things besides magical girl shows. I mean, if I were a dedicated magical girl channel, then you can bet I probably would talk about all of them. But it'd probably be ludicrous to talk about all of them because, well, I haven't really gotten that far. I mean, I've seen at the most probably around 20 to 25 shows of magical girl shows, and I'm still nowhere near done. In fact, I'm still far behind from that, though. But even with that said, however, I still think it's safe to say the magical girl genre is still one I still love to this day, though. Now, about today's topic. Today's story, let's talk about 4Kids for a second. You know, in retrospect, I kind of feel sorry for 4Kids in of itself, though. While I admit this is a company that, in my own self, though, I had as a kid, while I did watch some of their shows, more specifically the one piece 4Kids dub, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and so much and the like, you may have noticed that I've only talked about shonen from what I've seen about those shows. Well, that's because, like I said before, I didn't grow up with a lot of shoujo, or even if I have, I didn't really grow up with them as a kid. Though honestly, it's sad when you realize that despite 4Kids that have been defunct for since 2007, yeah, saying that out loud makes it scary just to think about. I don't want to say that they were the worst things I've ever seen. Yeah, they did chop up a lot of stuff though, but hell, I think it's about time I tell you that the cursor to that would have been something like that. What also doesn't help the fact is that 4Kids just didn't really seem to have a lot into it. Oh, and instead of just having that going in itself, though, I think it's only fitting to actually do whatever they can, though. I mean, it's bad enough when you realize that there were mostly 2 girl shows that I've actually remember having a lot of people wanting to recommend, though. Now, I was originally going to talk about Tokyo Mew Mew, but I haven't really seen it yet. I've heard about it and seen clips of it on YouTube, but I haven't really seen it as an entirety yet, so I'm gonna have to push that back a bit, though trust me, that will get a Magical Girl podcast episode eventually, but I just don't know when exactly. However, after that though, I started going with the other approach. Ojamajo Doremi. Ojamajo Doremi started out as a television series animated by Toei Animation, and if you thought that Pretty Cure was actually the one that's actually successed it, though, you might be mistaken. Consider this. Ojamajo Doremi is one of those shows that actually came out before Pretty Cure, and Pretty Cure actually became the prior to that, though. Yeah, if anyone's anything to judge by, though, Ojamajo Doremi actually had things going for it as well, though. It was aired by 4Kids in the US, but honestly, though, I wouldn't really track English dub for that series. Yeah, while I do admit I do like watching English dubs, though, this is one case where I would not want dub stuff, but it's also because they didn't really entirely air it, and they also put other names such as English names for the characters. I don't know if it's just me being a little pessy when I say this, though, but why change the names into something in English when you realize that there are foreign names? The animation was done by, again, like I said, Toei Animation, and as such, though, there were a lot of things going for it as is, though. Yeah, unlike Sailor Moon, where it actually felt like a successor, though, this is actually one case where the characters, most specifically the girls that we're focusing on, will actually have a lot more to say, more room to breathe, though. And while I admit I haven't seen this show as a kid, I did see one clip of it on YouTube, but I thought it was just a fever dream in of itself, though. And it's also worth pointing out that by the time of writing this, I know I should have done this maybe in the time of when doing so, but I really couldn't really show it as a 25th anniversary that time, though. This is one case where I was a little too late, but even then, I wasn't really definitely looking forward to a Magical Girl podcast when I didn't have enough time to do so already, though. So yeah, I kind of skipped out on myself when coming to that. So, anyways, but with that said, however, let's talk about Ojamajo and see how its success in this show into something like Pretty Cure and find out what it's about, though. Our series mostly revolves around Doremi Haru Nakaza, or as we're gonna call her, Doremi. She's a third grade elementary school student, at least in the beginning of the show, and as such, though, she goes into a fictional town known as Misora across town known as Mahodo. Mahodo is really known as the House of Magic, but after accidentally bumped into the owner, Sharika, he actually turns out to be a witch, though. Unfortunately, though, that's not the only thing, though, because after Rika gets turned into a frog, she tries everything she can to help these apprentices to do so. Doremi is the first one to encounter, but Doremi is not just your average everyday cheerful kid, though. See, in reality, she's really one that seems to have a lot of bad luck, or she likes to always exaggerate. She's the unluckiest girl in the world. Yeah, like I said, it's an exaggeration, so I don't really think that what it is, though. But Doremi, come on now. I mean, when you become a witch, I'm sure everything will go up okay according to what you think, though. Thankfully, though, she's actually does seem like the kind of person who wants to pick up for it, though. But what's here where we actually do see a lot of more characters along the way, though. But most of the characters we focus on are Doremi and usually either her family or her friends. Her family is not any much better, though, because her family, well, her parents are always arguing. Her younger sister, Pop, seems to always go around to always thinking she's always better than anything else before, though. And before you say anything, yes, that little trope where the younger siblings always right while the older one is wrong. Though unlike Usagi and Chibi-Usa, I don't think this one could be any annoying like that, though. I don't think any of this is annoying personally, but I can see why some people would, though. Of course, after school, though, Doremi decides to go to the same place she went before, the House of Magic. While she does she seems like the kind of person that wants to become a witch, it's here where she tries to has to pass all 9 tests in order to keep her self-identity a secret, though, from other humans. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem like she much, however, because right afterwards, though, she does bumble upon one of her friends, Hazuka. Hazuki, who happens to be really interested instead, though. Of course, she doesn't want to reveal who she is really, though, but she does never come into play when it comes to that, though. Later on, though, we do get other characters like Aiko, and I'm just gonna say this, though, I don't know if it's just me, I have a weird combination of looking like Hazuki, but then somehow I kind of act like Aiko in some ways. Okay, Hazuki is really came from a rich family, and while she does study the violin in some ways, though, in some aspects, she usually does get when she gets complimented about her wealth and everything, though. Whereas Aiko is really a tomboy that still lives with her father and doesn't want to talk too much about what happened to her mother. Yeah, I'm guessing her mother made but she doesn't want to feel too much about it, though. Now, I realize that some people are going to think maybe she could at least talk over, though, but from what I can tell, though, she just doesn't like talking about it whatsoever, though. Of course, after that, however, they do agree to become more of the witches, though, and when it comes right down to it, though. It's also worth pointing out that when going through it, though, they actually do manage to form themselves into that, though. Now, unlike Sailor Moon, where you actually do get to see the girls form up a team as slowly progresses, though, here it's a lot slower than that, because the other girls don't really come in until much later in the series. Yeah, I think this may be a problem with itself for some people, but if you actually watch the show like I have, it probably wouldn't be that much of a big deal, though. But I'll tell you one thing, though, watching this show makes me think I wish I could have seen this as a little kid. No joke, every time I wanted to see something that was made for girls, I didn't have many shows to watch. Most I could think of at the top of my head were Kim Possible, Powerpuff Girls, and My Life as a Teenage Robot, all of which were still shows that I still love to this day. But even with that said, however, I don't want to say that this is necessarily the show's fault, though. But one thing that really gets to me is how much this show really grabbed an impact on a lot of people, even to this day. I don't know about you guys, but when I was researching for the show, I was researching mostly for the toys. And even if as a an adult, I still love what most of these toys are. They usually sell mostly taps. If you don't know what taps are, they're basically things that the girls use to transform, and some of them do look pretty neat when you look at it. Though I do like the cologne tap, which basically looks like a perfume bottle, but it's also worth pointing out that they do have other taps though as well. Though, yeah, they have other taps that look like roses or something like that, but unlike like Sailor and Moon, though, they actually do pop out with some of the stuff that they have to and balance it out, though. And I'm sure a lot of people really find these pretty creative when it gets right down to it, though. Some of these other products are pretty good too, like say the or say the one that actually does look like Padara tap, which is basically it looks like a watch, but you just have to clap to the beat as well, though. Yeah, I think that's why the reason one of the reasons why they have a music note, though. See, Doremi is like do re mi, which is basically like how I say do re mi fa sol la ti do. But it's really one thing I have to say in show's favor, though. Other than that, though, I really can't say too much about what they did in the English dub, because one thing's for sure, they somehow had to change the name from calling them taps. For some reason, they call them dream spinners. Okay, one thing's for sure, I get what they're going for, but maybe it's just me, but I don't really like the name Dream Spinner. It just sounds like you have a spin top, though. Maybe that's what got me into Beyblade back then, though, like the other boys. Though, admittedly, I didn't play with them, I just wanted to watch them play, though. I still occasionally watch the show, but I really can't help but think of when I used to watch my first nephew years ago after I graduated. But even with that said, however, this show, just because they had 3 girls in the beginning, doesn't mean they don't have the other 2. One of which, Anbu, the purple one, remember, while she does seem like she has a lot going for her as well, though, she's really comes from a more wealthier family because she's a kid's idol. And even with that said, however, she does start off pretty cold at first glance. Not in a bad way that makes her look like a bitch, but in a way that you actually don't want to misunderstand her in some ways, though. I know some people may find this hard to believe, but I think Anbu may be one of my favorites, though. Though I can't help but think of the potato thing. Like, oh, my potato made me do what I could. Or something like that. I can't really say what it is, though, because it's in his subtitles, but yeah, it's probably a joke I don't want to say out loud, but really I can't help but feel sad and feel like I'm laughing my ass off when it comes to that. Later on, though, she does join up the team, but it's not until later on, though. But I think what really sets the bar into the show is more popular in Arabia. Now, I'm not from Arabia, so maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's pretty remarkable for this show to actually do so already, though. After finally revealing the identities of their families and friends, though, it seems like only their minds have been wiped out by Anfu, just so they can do so already, though. She forbids to use too much of heaven magic, though, but she still loses control of it, even for an eternal sleep, though. Yeah, the girls themselves have their own magic power when it comes to that, but even with that said, we actually do get to see other characters along the way, though. Like, for example, we do get to meet with one of the other characters that actually does come from Japan. This is Momoko. Momoko is, well, to put it more specifically, she's more of an American girl than anything. And unlike the other girls, though, she spoke English right away from the get-go of it, though. Now, I must stress enough, though, while there may be 5 wishes for the main quartet alone, though, sometimes even Pop comes in to help out, though. Though her items come, like, say, she's one step behind them, if anything, to judge by. Personally, I don't mind Pop being part of the team, though. I mean, yeah, she may be a bit of a distraction to some people, but hey, if you watch something like Sailor Moon with Usagi and Chibiusa, where they actually do get along with each other later on as the series goes on, though, you really can't go anything wrong with that, though. I mean, maybe it's just me, but that's really a good connection I could go across on that, though. But it's also worth pointing out that while the show does have a lot of things going for it as is, though, that also shows cleaner, but they also have a someone for a daughter or something like that. Okay, this is something I can't really explain in detail, but they usually a girl named Hana. Yeah, this is the one I got mixed up with Hazuki. I'm guessing with the letter H's in their names, but yeah, that's what it is though. Anyways, Hana herself started off as really just having the girls raise her as them taking care of her at the Mahodu though. Unfortunately though, Hana has, has passed several health examinations, but comes right down to it. But after Hank after one of the main antagonists attempts to kidnap her, it's really here we're back anyways. Now, it's said that the girls are mostly the mothers of Hana, but I'm not going to read too much into that because, let's be honest, a little girl having little girls as their own mothers, yeah, I'm not sure how many people thought about that as weird, but I'm pretty sure it's basically saying that, hey, we can use the extra help if we can, though. So I'm just gonna leave it when it comes right down to it, though. I have to say, though, despite being a magical girl show, this is actually one case where it can be both magical girl and slice of life. Yeah, slice of life is something that I really don't want to get too much into detail with when it comes right down to it, but hey, if you're anyone like me who likes slice of life mixed with a bit of action involved, then I don't really see a problem with it. Though it's worth pointing out the action of itself can be a bit more than what it is though for itself. I mean, let's be honest. This is one of those cases where there are little girls who are transforming. And before you say anything, no, they don't show their nudeness or anything. Thank God, because otherwise that would be pretty creepy on so many levels, though, in itself when it comes to that. And it comes right down to it, though, I think what really sets me to watch this show more would have to be the end credits song. I watched it in Japanese, but, well, this may be a hot take, but I don't mind the Japanese and the ending themes, though, because a lot of people say that it's better in Arabia, but hey, come on. Now, it's like something that's expressed from my own way, though. Before we get any further, though, let's talk about something that I need to talk about for the show, and how Pretty Cure actually became the successful child for this show. See, in case you guys don't know, Ojamajo Doremi came out around 1999, and around this time era, magical girl shows, while they were popular in the 90s, around the 2000s era where Toei Animation had made just have one little magical girl show, though. This is where actually Pretty Cure got its inspiration by, believe it or not, and honestly, this is definitely the case where I can see why they would do so. Not just in terms of the merchandise, and not just in terms of how girls are doing cute things with each other, but it's worth pointing out that they do more when it is, though. Even as little kid characters go, these little girls actually do what they can to learn when it comes right down to it, though. And it's really sad to me when you realize that there were some things that I couldn't really go over, something that I've actually researched on before watching this show, and also reading into it, though. If you've seen the Latin Spanish dub, though, you probably already knew this, though, but yeah, the Latin Spanish dub was canceled while the original Japanese version was celebrating the 20 years anniversary of Toei animation of this series, though. Yeah, 5 years ago, they were going to have a Latin Spanish dub for people who do speak in that, but unfortunately, they canceled it due to other legal purposes and stuff. So in such, though, you can tell they had to make it into Japanese, though. Personally, I don't have a problem with subtitles in Japanese, but it is kind of sad that they don't understand what's going on, though, especially when you have English subtitles. I mean, when you read something that's not your language, though, it can be pretty difficult for the person to understand it. I mean, I'm Spanish myself, and I do read Spanish sometimes, but I don't like to read it too much, if anything, to judge by itself, though. Also, there were plans to make a movie out of this for around May 15th of 2020, but in case you couldn't tell, they had production issues, and also because of the pandemic, around COVID-19, they actually had to release it around late 2020, around November 13th. So I'm not sure how many people watched it, but I'm not anywhere near done with this show. This show has 201 episodes, and compared to a lot of other magical girl shows that, say Sailor Moon or Pretty Cure have lasted, that's not really a bargain to bin on. I mean, yeah, you could make the argument that the show has too many episodes to get through, but I'm guessing it's mostly because it really had this show really popular for what it is, though. But speaking of popularity, I don't really hear many people talk about this show from where I'm from. I mean, Tokyo Mew Mew, I've at least heard some people, especially one of my high school friends at the time, watched the show, but I'm not sure how many people have thought about Ojamajo Doremi when it comes right down to it, though. Seriously, saying that title just makes my mouth go blah, 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 all the time. Because that's how much I have to say it all the time, though. Anyways, while the show itself does have a lot of things going for it as is, though, it's worth pointing out this show has a lot of things with it as it is, though. No matter how much I watch this show, I actually get cute vibes of it, though. I'm not sure how many people watched this show when it was out, though, but when I first saw that character Doremi, I was saying to myself, I may have saw her in a video from when I was watching something on YouTube when I was 14, but this was a different kind of video. I'm not gonna say what kind of video it was, because if I did, some people would get suspicious of what it is, but that was my introduction to Doremi as it was, though. It's also worth pointing out that while the show itself does have a lot of things going for it, though, I can't help but think about the merchandise. Yeah, I don't normally talk about magical girl accessories, because if I did, it would take too many times to actually go through it as is, though. Yeah, this is one case where I would tell you about this show entirely, about what kind of stuff that they had, but even if I did that, this would take far too long for me to talk about as is, though. I mean, I did watch the 25th anniversary special of them having them do the theme song, and with all of the characters grown up, and I'm not gonna lie, they did look adorable, and not an adorable point that makes you go and say, yeah, as in how much these designs really look cute. I mean, if you're anyone like me who's part of the magical girl community and seen Pretty Cure, then you already know what you're getting into, though. This is one of those shows that was the successor to that, so I have to be honest, that's much what it is, though. But, well, here's one thing why I decided to cover this show. See, I watched this show a few months ago, back when I was still going through a lot with my personal family member who was still in rehab. But, you know, with that said, after watching it, I think this may have coped me a bit more than I may have thought, though. I mean, sure, I know some people may think that's how people are supposed to cope with whatever they could do with themselves, but I had to do whatever I could to make myself realize that there's a lot of things that they could have had for itself, though. I mean, let's be honest, though. Unless you're someone like me who actually goes on and watching something like Ojamajo Doremi, 201 episodes. Okay, I'm just gonna say this right here and now. I know that's not as long as some other Toei animated shows, say One Piece, but hey, at least this show actually found its audience when it came right down to it, though. That said, I'm not sure how many people wanted to watch this show if it were 201 episodes. I mean, it's not as long as Mermaid Melody is, sure, but it's definitely long enough to get yourself into whatever you can, though. I mean, if anything, though, I still love the show, even if it is pretty cutesy in its own way, though. I would tell you more about what the show's like every now and then, but really, it would take far too long for me to describe everything that happens, though. I will tell you, though, that the villain, Alexander, who turned the witch frog into, well, a witch frog, he was actually one responsible, and as such, though, they did just that, though. And it's up to the girls to find out what they could itself here and there. And I'll be damned, though, this really shows to me what happens if little girls actually did become magical girls. We've seen other shows where girls become those, but honestly, I think it's because they were either in their preteens or in their teenage years. This one actually shows elementary students, and if anything to judge by, it's really not hard to see what happens to itself. I can't really say anything else more about it without spoiling too much about it for you, but one thing I can say is that if you're anyone who's into Pretty Cure or special girl community entirely like I am, then I wouldn't really have much to ask for, except why don't you just go and watch it, though. I mean, sure, I know it's not going to appeal to everybody, it's too girly, it's too cutesy and stuff like that, but come on, as a tomboy, I don't mind stuff like this, especially because, well, that's really what I have to say for its own favor, though. Ojamajo Doremi is still a fun series. It may not be, fitting for everybody, though, but if you can get past a lot of the cutesy tropes, you really can't go anything wrong with this show. And until then, that's all to it though. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about one more show, and it's not really something that has girls in it, but get this, it has magical boys. If you don't know what I mean, well, I'll keep that as a surprise for tomorrow. But until then, thank you all so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it, and as always, stay flipping fantastic. See ya.